it's just an example. Purdue losing to Fresno State is okay. We can still win the Big Ten West. But me,
Billy Napier gets fired. I'm just kidding.
hey, really the best time of the year. I will be seated watching the Red Zone for 7 hours on Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to an episode back here at Banter. Johnny, James, Tanner. We're finally back. It feels like forever since we've recorded, but frankly, we've all been incredibly busy, mostly me. So I apologize to you guys. We're finally back, and we have one of the biggest games in college football this weekend. Florida, Georgia. I'm kidding.
I was like, did I miss something? I thought the slate was awful.
I thought you were serious for a minute, and I was about to leave this recording.
Ohio State goes to Penn State this weekend. Elimination game for Ohio State. I think if you're a 2-loss Big Ten team, you're not going to get in. That's just a me thing, unless something crazy really happens, especially in the SEC. But Ohio State goes to Penn State. A lot of storylines in this one. Mostly that James Franklin has one career win. He's like 1-12 versus top 5, and Ryan Day is 1-5 versus his last 6 ranked teams. So it's kind of a 2-part question here. One, who's going to win and why? And which coach do you think is under more pressure? Tanner, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I would say that Ryan Day is under more pressure because Ohio State's program over there, I got to say, like Pat McAfee, they expect national championships every year. They expect to beat Michigan every year. They expect to beat Penn State every year. That is the expectation at The Ohio State University. He has not done that. He has not won a national championship. Has he beaten Michigan yet? I don't think he's beaten Michigan. If he has, it's been one time. Penn State he's had no trouble with, but Ryan Day, I'm telling you, he's on the hot seat. If he doesn't get it done with this roster and this team this season, he's in trouble because he can't win a big game. And you take a look at James Franklin over there at Penn State. Sure, he has struggled in these games, but the expectation's a little bit different at Penn State there in Happy Valley than it is in Columbus, Ohio. So I would say that there's more pressure on Ryan Day and the Buckeyes to win this game. In terms of the matchup, 2 fraudulent coaches here. You got James Franklin versus Ryan Day. I said Dan Lanning would outcoach Ryan Day. I don't know who's going to outcoach each other here. Because, to be honest, I don't think either of them can outcoach anyone. So I'm going to sit here and take the home team. I'm going to take Penn State. I think Will Howard sucks. I think Drew Aller's not much better, but he is a little bit better than Will Howard. Ohio State's coming off a tough game last week. They did not look very good against Nebraska at home, almost laid an egg. Penn State, it's gonna be rocking in Happy Valley. We're talking 110,000. Give me the home crowd. Penn State finally gets it done. Ryan Day, you are in trouble. You are going to be in shambles after this Saturday.
Yeah, it's so confusing because that game last week against Nebraska was one of the just like, what's going on with this team? Like, this was a team that we've talked about. Johnny, you've mentioned it multiple times. One of the best rosters in the country. I mean, Johnny, you've even said one of the best rosters you've seen. And I mean, you can't discredit that claim because they do have. The only question was Will Howard, right? Can he perform like they expected him to? But you got Judkins, you got Henderson. Like, those guys are 2 NFL running backs, and they rushed for what? 55 yards against Nebraska. And we watched that Indiana-Nebraska game the week before. Indiana ran all over Nebraska. So it was really confusing to me. So I don't know. I think Ohio State's the better team. I'm not convinced that Penn State will ever have a lethal offense. I agree with what you said, Tanner. Like, I don't like any of these coaches. Like, I'm not a big James Franklin guy. I cool story and all, but like, I'm not a fan. Ryan Day, whatever. I'm going to go with Ohio State here. I think they are too talented. Their roster is too deep. I think they get the running game going against Penn State. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to be one of those great college football games that we see. I think we're going to see a low-scoring game. I kind of like that final of the Ohio State-Nebraska game, like 21-17. I think the Buckeyes come out on top. I think they established the run game in the first 2 drives. And from there, let's not act. I mean, their receiving core is also unbelievable. So, like, they have so much firepower on offense. But I think they get the running game back in track. You can't lay an egg like you did against Nebraska. Tough environment, though. But I look forward to a great game. I think it's going to be a dogfight all the way through. But I'm gonna give the upper hand to the Buckeyes here.
Yeah, Tanner. To your claim that Will Howard hasn't been good, Will Howard has been really good this year. I mean, we're talking 17 touchdowns to 4 picks. He's a quarterback rating over 180, and you kind of point at who they played. They had a weak schedule, but against Oregon he was good. He had a pick last week, but 3 touchdowns. So I think he's exceeded my expectations. His completion percentage is up over 12 points from his last season at Kansas State. Like that's substantial. That is a massive leap. You don't see that kind of leap, especially a guy from a fifth year senior, which he is. So I think he's been very good. Now he's throwing to 3 future first round picks at wide receiver. So obviously that helps. The thing with Ohio State, they've been able to run the ball. Judkins is averaging right around 2.4 yards a carry the last 2 games. That's atrocious. I mean, this was an LSU team, an Ohio State team that should come out and just run it right down your throat. I mean, look at the Ohio State roster, James. You're right. I think they're one of the most talented rosters since that LSU team that Bama team in 2020. Those LSU team and Bama teams. Look, you got 2 first round backs. If talent backs, depending on how you value running backs in the NFL, you got 2 first round talents back there. You got like 6 first round receivers, and they got 2 more coming in next year. You got a first line offensive lineman who was hurt the last 2 weeks, hurt the last game, which is part of the reason they haven't been running it as well. You got a first round edge rusher, you got a first round safety, you got a first round cornerback. Like it is inexcusable. We're not talking about draft picks. We're talking about day 1 picks, top 15 picks that some of these guys are. And to me, it is absolutely inexcusable for Ohio State to go in and lose this game. That being said, Drew Allar's hurt right now. We don't know the status on him. He left the Wisconsin game, so his status is up in the air. That being said, Penn State's got 2 really good running backs too. And Penn State might have the best talent in the country as well. So I think you're right. It's going to be a really evenly matched game. I'm going to go Ohio State. I think Ohio State's more talented. I don't think either coach is as bad as you guys think they are, because I think to consistently win 10 games like James Franklin does is really impressive, especially in the Big Ten. I know he never beats Michigan or Ohio State, but trust me, I know as a Florida fan, to lose to those bottom-feeder teams, to mid-level teams, is really bad, and it takes a certain talented coach to not let that happen. That being said, again, Will Howard's been sneaky good this year. I think Ohio State runs the ball a little better, and Ohio State doesn't need to go average 7-8 yards a carry. If Ohio State goes out and runs the ball 4 or 5 yards a carry, that'll more than get it done. That's the biggest stat for me in this game. If Ohio State can run the ball efficiently, I think they'll have no problem in winning. And then I think Ohio State has such an advantage on the outside with their wide receivers. And look, 2, 3, 4 explosive plays, that's really all it needs, because I really think Ohio State's defense is going to come to play and show up in this game. Last time they were in Happy Valley, JTT, my guy, who I'll never say his last name correctly, completely took over the game. And I'm not saying he needs to do what he did last time, because that was one of the best performances I've seen from a college edge rusher since like Will Anderson did some crazy stuff. So I think he has a similar type impact. I think Caleb Downs makes a couple of plays as well. So the line's 3.5. I think Ohio State definitely covers. I think Ohio State wins by more than a touchdown.
Wow. Yeah, I don't agree with the over a touchdown, just because, like I said, I think it's going to be a dogfight. But you can't look at that Ohio State roster. Like, it's a team, like I said it in the Georgia-Texas game. Like, it's a team that we haven't seen, like, play up to their potential yet. And, I mean,
that's exactly right. It's only a matter of time till they do.
Talk about a game you have to do it. Like, you lose this one, yeah, I mean, good luck to you. I mean, right? I mean, the cards have to fall in your favor at that point if you're a 2-loss Big Ten team. But
yeah, and I will say I think Ohio State wins by 7 or more. So I will say that 7 or more. I don't think they're going to come out and win by 21 points, but it wouldn't surprise me if Ohio State wins by 10. They're up 7, 3 minutes left to kick a field goal, push it to 2 possessions, and look, this game being a noon local time kick, like, it sucks. I wish it was a night game. I wish this was the whiteout game, and I wish you could flex some games. I know Fox owns the Big Ten essentially, and their big thing is big noon kickoff. But look, an environment like this needs to be a night game, needs to be the whiteout game. But regardless, I mean, look, these are 2 of the top 10 programs in college football. Like, it's a helmet game. It's going to be a great game. Speaking of another rivalry, we won't talk about this one for too long. But look, Florida and Georgia play, and whenever these teams play, like, it's a fairly big deal. ABC has their number 1 crew going to go cover. It's the first time it hasn't been on CBS since like 1995, just to show you kind of, the changing in college football. It was just announced today that they're going to be playing in Atlanta and Tampa in 2026 and 27. I would love to see a home and home. We were just talking about before we went on. Last time they weren't a home and home, I believe, was also 1995 when Spurrier went into Sanford. Was the only team at the time to put up 50 in Sanford Stadium. Was that Steve Spurrier Florida team? But look, for Florida, it is very simple. Carson Beck has not been as good as he's been last year, but he's the second best quarterback Florida's faced at this point, outside of Cam Ward. And it's really going to show how much has Florida improved since that first bye week. You should beat Tennessee. You blew that game. Georgia's better than Tennessee. I still don't think Tennessee's very good. Georgia has the 16th highest pressure rate in the country. Florida allows pressure not at a high level. They're not like 130s, but they're like 69th in pressure allowed. That's a big deal when you're going up against like Cal Williams, who I think is the best edge rusher in college football. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's an alien. So it's really simple. Kirby against DJ Lagway. That's the matchup. Florida needs DJ Lagway to play like he did last week against Kentucky. And Kirby is so good at disguising coverages and doing simulated blitzes and stuff that can really confuse a young quarterback. But at the same time, you have 2 weeks to prepare for this game. DJ is a smart kid. If he plays well, Florida has a chance. If Florida runs the ball, they'll have a chance. And look, you got to cause a turnover. Carson Beck has some like 7 interceptions the last 3 games. You got to get a few of those. You got to get a fumble from Trevor Etienne. You got to limit the running game. You got to win first and second down. You needed almost every third down to be 3rd or 7 plus. And then, frankly, you need Billy Napier not to piss down his leg like he did against Tennessee. And for God's sakes, you need to not have 12 guys on the field when you're kicking a freaking field goal, or else someone will be picking up a broken TV outside of an apartment complex in downtown Salt Lake City. So that's my overview of the game. Look, Florida is more than talented enough to go win this game. Are they on Georgia's level? No, they're not necessarily close to being on Georgia's level. Can they beat Georgia on a given Saturday? Yes. But you got to be able to run the ball. You got to hit the explosive plays that DJ can do, and you got to cause a few turnovers. And, Georgia's a 16.5-point favorite. It's a lot of points, you think, just how Florida's played. But they've won the last 3 games by 20, 3 matches by 20 plus. But I'm kind of interested to see, your guys' opinion.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a very, very close game at the start of the game. Yeah. It's going to be the closest it's ever been right at kickoff. And I don't know. I see there's a way that Florida comes out, right? I think DJ Lagway has an opportunity. I think, truthfully, DJ Lagway has looked very promising, right? If you're a Florida Gators fan, you're like, yeah, this guy is legit, right? He's exactly what we talked about preseason, what he was talking about in high school, yada, yada, yada. I think he has an opportunity to rush for like 100 yards, like genuinely. I think if he wants to take over the game, he has an opportunity to do it with his legs. And I don't know. Who knows, right? I mean, I could be so wrong. I don't think he's ever rushed for 100 in college. But then again, I mean, who knows? And sacks in college football take away rushing yards, which is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But anyway, I just don't see – if they were playing the Georgia team that we saw 4 weeks ago, I'd be like, okay, Florida has a legitimate fighting chance. But that Georgia team has looked just promising. And I agree with what you said. Carson Beck has just not been very good. I think it's 8 turnovers. in his last 3 games. So Florida is, like you said, they have a top 10 talent roster in the country. Like I believe you when you say that, and it is what it is. But I just don't see it happening this year. Of course, me and Johnny saw that side bet going on.
One more win. FSU, last game of the year.
1 win away. So who knows? But you know what? If I lose, I give Johnny a crisp $20 bill, and it's okay. I'm okay with it.
I need that in person too.
But I don't think there's a chance. I'll fly out. I don't think there's a chance it happens on Saturday. But I tell you what, I have no ties for either team because I do think Florida's going to get to 5. I do. They're going to beat Florida State. You know what? Go knock off a big dog, right? I'll be right over left on Saturday. I'm totally
right over left, baby.
But I don't think there's a chance in hell. I will say that.
Yeah. So what did I say? What did I say before this pod started? I said go Dogs, right? I said it's all Georgia. I was lying. It's the Gators Saturday.
Right over left.
DJ Lagway, welcome to big time college football. Billy Napier, your job is safe. You just saved your job. The Florida Gators, right over left, are going to knock off the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday.
Now they're totally going to
and,
lose.
And Billy Napier, just like Urban Meyer, is going to call 3 timeouts in the final 30 seconds of the game to rub it into the dog's face. DJ Lagway is going to submit himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the country Saturday. I love DJ Lagway. Not a fan of Billy Napier, but DJ Lagway will save Billy Napier's job. And Carson Beck sucks. I agree with you guys. Carson Beck is going to have some turnovers. DJ Lagway is going to take advantage of it. And the Florida Gators are going to shock the college football world on Saturday afternoon.
There would be real tears. There would be real tears. But to James, your point to what Georgia team were you going to get? This isn't the Georgia team from 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, where those teams had just a bunch of aliens, basically, especially on the defensive line. This isn't that team, right? Are they talented enough to still win a national championship? I picked them in the preseason to win a national championship, so yes. But that's why I think that there's a sliver of chance. Like the last year, a little bit more because they were like 5-2 going to that game, that crazy game against South Carolina. I thought there was a chance. 2 years ago, I thought there was no chance. They could win. But simply, do I think Florida's going to win? No. I think they'll probably cover, but I think they'll probably lose by 2 possessions. But this Georgia team, simply, you can look at all the numbers. They simply aren't as good as the past 4 years. But that being said, still plenty good enough to win not only this game but the national championship. But James, on that cue, or right over left. There we go, T. Right over left. And if Billy Napier wins this game, they might sign him to a contract extension. That would be that'd be the
statue. Put up a statue.
Exactly. All right, James. Let's go to your top 10. Lot of movement. At least there should be. As LSU going down last week, obviously. A&M has been looking good. I have a hot take on A&M once the top 10 comes out, but yeah, James, I'll let you kind of explain yourself.
Yeah, you guys can see this, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And I can see you guys, so it's like a win-win.
Yeah, this is the best of both worlds.
So here we go. Like you said, a little movement. There's actually movement everywhere, even up top. I had Ohio State at 3 last week, and I agree with the AP poll this week. Ohio State's just inability to run the football last week against Nebraska just scares the poop out of me. Even though I just picked them to beat Penn State. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Obviously, Oregon. By the way, I'm sure you guys have seen it, but there's a chance that Oregon can go undefeated, being the number 1 team in the country, and miss the Big Ten championship. How electric would that be? I'm all for that. By the way, I'm all for that. So yeah, 5 we have Texas. 6 we have Tennessee, which I believe I had LSU at last week. Miami slides up. Tanner was upset with me last week about having Miami, but Miami's jumped a few spots this week. So you're still probably going to be a little upset they're at 7. And I don't disagree. Like, I think these are all good teams, like 1 through 8 that I think could win a national championship. But
Hell no, Notre Dame cannot win a national championship.
Shut up.
I have my own gripe with Notre Dame. I'll get into that in a second.
That's fine, and I look forward to that gripe. But anyway, Miami at 7. Don't get me wrong, Tanner. I think they're a hell of a team, but like the inability to just go out and blow out teams, it's been my one gripe about them. So yeah, we put them at 7. They're still a great team. Notre Dame, they slide up into 8 in the AP poll, and Lord, I'm not going to disagree with them. So we'll put them at 8. Riley Leonard, I've slandered on this podcast. I've hyped up on this podcast, and it's time to hype him back up. I think Riley Leonard is playing really, really good football. Granted, they're playing, sailors, but it's okay. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. It was a good quality win. By the way, I was looking at Notre Dame's schedule. Like, if you're a recruit and you look at Notre Dame's schedule and you say, oh, they're playing in Atlanta, okay, then they go play at MetLife, then they play at Yankee Stadium. It's like, dude, that's so sick. And so yeah, to hype up Notre Dame. 9 A&M. What an impressive win. Obviously, we didn't get to talk about that. LSU kind of just looked. We texted in our group chat.
Yeah.
We literally texted, man, LSU's legit. And then Johnny literally texted, never mind. And I think as soon as we talked about Nussmeier, I'm not sure if he threw 5 more yards after that. Like, first half, he had like 270 passing yards. And we were like, wow, this guy can hoop. And then A&M just came out and took care of him. So BYU does fall just because of A&M beating LSU. but I still have them in my top 10. And then Indiana still not getting any love to the AP poll. I think they're at 13 still. I understand they really haven't played anybody, but they're still playing a Big Ten schedule. They're 8-0, and they have the number one offense in the country. So I'm excited to see what you guys think. There is some change in my top 10. Clemson, got kicked out simply because they didn't play. But yeah, we'll see. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start us off here. You were right. I think Miami should be ahead of Tennessee and maybe even Texas. I think Miami should be in that 5 spot. BYU is not a better football team than Clemson. I get it. BYU's undefeated, but if those two teams played right now, I think Clemson would win by 20 or more points. And
yeah, I don't disagree, but I've been so bought into the Cougs this whole time, so I got to keep riding with the Cougs. I have to.
I'm not gonna. I get it. BYU, sure. They deserve it. They're undefeated, but Clemson is a better football team.
Yeah, I don't. There's so much, and the first college football playoff rankings coming after this week. I'm going to be really interested to see how they rank teams because, to me, Ole Miss is a top 10 team. I get their record doesn't show it, but I think Ole Miss would beat Indiana, Iowa State, BYU. I think Ole Miss would beat Notre Dame, and they're ranked 19th in the AP poll. I think the AP poll is so unserious. I don't I get you want to show love. No one has more respect than me for the armed forces, but Navy wasn't a top 25 team. They just weren't. So it's going to go on Notre Dame's record as a ranked win. That's comical. They're not a top 25 team. Neither is Army. Roger Staubach.
No, I'm not going to let the Army. Army's legit. Army's legit.
I do not think so.
You're just mad as Notre Dame that beat them.
No, I think the fact that Notre Dame lost to NIU, I think that should single-handedly keep them out of the playoff.
I think 11-1. You're keeping them out of the playoff.
Their schedule is not good enough. They beat A&M in week 1. Who else are they going to play besides A&M in week 1?
It's still comical.
It's not comical.
It's comical that you think a committee would leave off no.
They're not going to. But if LSU wins out, LSU should be ranked higher than Notre Dame. If Ole Miss wins out, Ole Miss should be ranked higher than Notre Dame.
If Notre Dame goes 11-1, there is a 0% chance they don't make the playoffs.
And I don't think they're one of the 12 best teams in the country. That's just my opinion. I think they don't play anybody. They played A&M in week 1, and outside of that, the rest of their schedule is horrid. And I understand that there's not much they can do to control that. And in that horrid schedule, I think you have no room for failure. And if you do, it's A&M or it's USC. It's not NIU. And look, they looked really good against Navy. A lot of people look good against Navy. Navy's not any good. I don't think
our armed forces. Okay, I won't slander them.
No, I'm sure they're great. They're great human beings. But as a football team, I don't. Is rankings do deserve to be ranked? Does BYU deserve to be ranked in the top 10? Yes. Are they one of the 10 best teams in the country? No. I don't think they're one of the 20 best teams in the country. I think
zip it. You zip it.
No, that is factual. I can name 20 teams better than BYU. So that's why I'm going to be glued on it's Tuesday night when the rankings come out. I think that's more important than the freaking election at this point. To see what they do with it, because Indiana's in the same boat as Notre Dame. They haven't played anyone. It's a great story, but they haven't played anyone. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Clemson. If Clemson goes undefeated and loses to Miami in the ACC championship, I don't know if they get in because, again, they haven't played anybody. They lost to Georgia and they would lose to Miami in that scenario. And the best team they would have played is Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech lost to Vanderbilt. No hate on Vanderbilt. They also beat Bama. But, I mean, this isn't a top 40 team. It just isn't. So really interesting to see how they're going to handle the Big 12 and the ACC, because what happens if Iowa State and BYU meet in the Big 12 championship and Iowa State wins? I don't think BYU is one of the 12 best teams in the country. I just don't. I think a 3-loss SEC team or a 2-loss Big Ten team is better than a BYU in that situation. So it's really interesting to think about. I think Notre Dame gets hurt by this more than anyone not being in the conference, and I'm really interested to see how that's going to work out going forward. Because look, if you look at Notre Dame's schedule preseason, you see Florida State, you see USC, you see these teams that are supposed to be better, and it's not Notre Dame's fault that they're not better. But they don't have that security blanket of being in the conference where they can go get in the conference championship.
And that security blanket was it was always there because, we're playing ACC, right? Mm-hmm. And the ACC always had Florida State, Clemson, all those dogs. The ACC used to be very, very good. And now we're seeing a really down ACC in particular to this year. And I don't disagree. Like, I'm not looking at Notre Dame's schedule and I'm like super excited about it. I'm not inspired by playing Army and Navy every year. I'm not inspired of playing a MAC schedule and let alone losing to one of them, right? But it's like, when you look at that week 1 win against A&M, especially because A&M has not faltered since, that excites me because watching that A&M team against Notre Dame, you're like, oh my God, their offense is terrible. And it's still not good. Like, it's still not great, but like they found a scheme that works for them. And I mean, I think a Notre Dame team that goes, don't get me wrong, a 10-2 team of Notre Dame, I'm not holding my breath. They're not getting in, right? But an 11-1 team that went into Texas A&M and got a win, I think they are a top 12 team in the country. I don't think that's any bias to Notre Dame's history. Obviously, committees have always been biased to Notre Dame. I think you're lying to yourself if you think that if Notre Dame goes 11-1 and they play the style of football they've been playing the last few weeks, you're lying to yourself if you think they're not a top 12 team in the country. Like,
I think they're one of the 12 most deserving teams to get in, but I could find 12 teams better than them.
I disagree. I disagree. I like Notre Dame's. I like Notre Dame's chance against a lot of people. I mean,
I'm not going to discredit Notre Dame's win against Texas A&M, but I think if they were to play a game again, A&M would have a really good chance of winning. And first of all, I'm not high at all on Notre Dame on A&M, and I'm going to say my take now. I think A&M's going to lose this weekend to South Carolina. They go to South Carolina in a night game, and
I think part of it we should also look at Notre Dame's track record here. I mean, they haven't won a BCS game ever, I think, and I know they haven't won a college football playoff.
No, they definitely won the Fiesta Bowl. Oh no, they lost that game.
No. Yeah. So I mean, when you take a look at Notre Dame lifetime, like, yeah, sure, they're independent, they don't play in a conference, but sometimes their schedule like makes them look better than they are. So I would agree with you, Johnny.
It's just really hard, and it's tough. And we talked about this when the 12-team playoff came out, that no one was hurt more than Notre Dame because if they go undefeated, the highest they can be is 5th. Yeah. And to be completely frank, I think 2-loss SEC teams with the schedule that they play deserve to be in over a 1-loss Notre Dame. And you can disagree, but let's say Georgia loses another game, and Georgia will have played Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, at Texas. 4 games. Those 4 teams are going to be ranked in the top 10. A 2-loss Georgia deserves to be in over a 1-loss Notre Dame that played NIU, Army, Navy, and Florida State is the worst team in college football this year. And it's an issue.
Second worst.
I mean,
yeah, outside of Purdue. And they also played Purdue. So
here's the thing. Every 2-loss SEC team's getting in. Like, they're not going to kick out Notre Dame if they go 11-1.
I don't think so, because the SEC's been crazier than people think.
Teams are a lock just as much as Notre Dame's a lock if they go 11-1. That gets into the only 2 Big Ten and 1 Big 12 and 1 ACC. Like,
there's a scenario where there's like 5 2-loss SEC teams, and it'll be crazy. But that's why the rankings on Tuesday is the most important thing that's happening on Tuesday, not the election.
Because if they put Notre Dame, if the committee puts Notre Dame inside the top 10 on Tuesday,
then they're going to be in. And look, I have no gripes with Notre Dame being in the top 10. I just think, I just think that Notre Dame is set up for failure based on the structure of the 12-team playoff and their schedule, we talked about in the preseason. Their schedule that wasn't crazy good in the preseason got significantly worse because of the teams didn't hold up their end of the bargain. But we'll see.
And we can move on. My goal, and I said it on the podcast, I said it to you guys in person. My goal was that Notre Dame goes 12-0. They're the number 1 team in the country, and because they're not in conference, they're the 5 seed. Mm-hmm. And the reason I wanted that to be my goal was so that the committee would say, okay, let's not act like that was a fluke season from Notre Dame. Like, they could do that again, and are we really going to discredit them again? Again, those are the hypotheticals of that. And again, you go back to the fact is, all right, Notre Dame then is joining conference, and I think it's going to be a while before that happens. I really do, but yeah, I'm still upset if Notre Dame doesn't play. They got a bye week this week. I still love watching them play. I think Marcus Freeman's got them boys fired up.
He's coming to Florida. Better get ready.
Come on.
Anyway, we'll move on to NFL. All of our NFL teams suck, so there's nothing to to harp on too much besides the Bears fans continuing to experience anguish that has not been experienced by really any other fan base in the last 10 years. But Tanner, do you have a top 5 for us coming into this, or do you just want to talk about it? Then let's do your top 5 first.
I mean, if you want to talk about the Bears, I can, but I really don't. My week has been ruined. I haven't smiled very much. There's no happiness.
Please, Tanner, you gave me the biggest smile when I saw you on Sunday. I guess that was before the Bears game.
That was before what happened in the Bears game. But yeah, I'm going to start at 5 here. I want to take him out. I want to call him frauds. I want to say Jordan Love's overrated. But the Green Bay Packers right now are the 5th best team in football. I already know that they're going to absolutely rip my heart out in 2 weeks when the Bears play them. But, going in and almost losing to Jacksonville is not good. Jordan Love leads the NFL in interceptions, and he's missed 2 games. That's a problem.
He's tied with Baker. Let's not get it.
But he also leads in passing touchdowns.
Okay.
No, Baker does, yeah.
Okay. Well, the Packers are the 5th best team in football. I'm going to drop the Ravens from 3 to 4. Jameis Winston is inevitable. It's going to happen. Jameis Winston is a gunslinger, and when he's on, and he was on.
I hate him. I don't say it. My mom says not to hate anybody, but I hate Jameis Winston.
Nice. He's a good guy. You should hate Deshaun Watson, not Jameis Winston.
Well,
but
I hate him
honestly, the Ravens have 2 pretty inexcusable losses to the Raiders and Browns, and one of those was at home. I still think they're obviously a top 5 team in football, but just bad losses. I mean, that just shows they're going to have to go on the road in the playoffs. Like that's what that does.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would agree that like it's a terrible loss, but I'm not going to let a road divisional loss ruin my perception on one of the best teams in football.
Yeah, I agree.
So I stuck with the Ravens at 4. At 3, I got the Houston Texans. A little bit skeptical on this. Sure, they went into Lambeau and lost. Sure, they almost lost to the Colts, but C.J. Stroud is there, and C.J. Stroud, I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I would take C.J. Stroud and the Texans ahead of the Bills this year. I could be crazy for saying that.
Well, they played each other and they won, but I don't think Houston's 3. I think Houston should be closer to 5 than.
I don't like Houston. I don't like Houston at 3.
And Tanner, because we know who your top 2 is before you get to it. You love Pittsburgh. Where's Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh is on the outside looking in. I
agree. Pittsburgh still sucks. I don't care that they're 6-2. Pittsburgh sucks. They do this every year.
Maybe if they had Justin Fields starting,
no. That's the only reason why they go from not being atrocious to just sucking. That is
Russell Wilson is clearly a QB1 for them.
He's been hooping for no reason.
And he opens up Najee. Like Najee's been playing decent because
no, lost me my undefeated record in my fantasy league. I was furious.
Anyways, I have a change in the top 2. I'm going.
Thank you.
I like that.
Chiefs at number 2. Still so much respect for the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the back-to-back defending Super Bowl champions. Still could get a 3rd. I mean, still have a lot of confidence in them potentially winning the Super Bowl. But at number 1, the absolute best team in football, a team that's not going to slow down, a team that is on fire. It's the Detroit Lions. I mean, you can't stop the Detroit Lions. It does not matter. Dan Campbell might be the best coach in football. Jared Goff, what did I say? I want to repost this clip.
You should. It's pinned on our Instagram.
On Instagram. I said Jared Goff was going to win the MVP last February. And guess what? He is right in the MVP conversation. Jared Goff is hooping. That offensive line is so good. They have 2 unbelievable running backs. A little bit worried about their defense. Their defense has given up a lot of yards. They've been good in the red zone. I think when they start playing these NFC North teams, things are going to be different for them in the red zone. But I still think offensively they're good enough to win those games. And, I mean, they're going to win 14, 15 games. So give me the defense.
1 loss to Tampa, baby. Come on.
No, they're going to go. They're actually going whatever it gets to 3 losses. So they're going.
14.
They're going to lose twice.
How does it feel that Ben Johnson wanted to go to the Bears, but they kept Eberflus?
I don't know what to think about it because
I'm furious.
When you look at the timing of the news, it's like how serious is that? When it's one day after Matt Eberflus is getting just absolute heat from everybody for a good reason. I would love Ben Johnson, but at the same time, that happened in January, and we got to talk about what's going on right now. In the Bears locker room, one of two things are going to happen. This is all I want to say. I think I've made my thoughts on Matt Eberflus pretty clear in prior episodes on this podcast. I think it's been known that I'm not a big fan of Matt Eberflus or his ability to coach a football team. But one or two things is going to happen this Sunday, and quite frankly, the rest of the Bears season. They're either going to have a heart-to-heart moment as a team. They're going to come together, and that loss on Sunday and the way it happened is going to be the best thing for this football team. And they're going to come out on fire and play pissed off and play Chicago Bears football that we saw the weeks prior to this week and come out and stack some wins and go get to the playoffs. Or this locker room is going to be in shambles. They're going to be pointing fingers, and it's just going to be a terrible season from here on out. And I don't know which way it's going to go. I know it's only going to go one of two ways. I sure as hell hope we go beat Arizona. Arizona's playing good football right now, so we'll see. We're about to find out. We're about to find out about the Chicago Bears, the 2024 Chicago Bears Sunday. We're going to find out what type of football team this is.
Yeah, the Bears are one of the most interesting teams in football to me because, look, was there holding on the Hail Mary? Yes, right? But it doesn't matter, James. You're 100% right because a situation like that can never happen. It was I don't know if they underestimated Jane Daniels' arm. I saw a bunch of stuff on Twitter because I'm not going to act like I know how to guard a Hail Mary. But, I mean, the Bears had a lot of people between the 5 and 10-yard line. And I was walking through security at O'Hare International Airport. And I thought it was like a typo when I opened the phone because I saw the Bears scored 20 whatever seconds left. And I was like, oh, good. I have to deal with Tanner and James, who the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl on whenever we film next. But at least they won. I don't not root for the Bears, but look, sometimes to be encouraged by. Caleb really bounced back after a really tough 3 quarters, and he stepped up and he makes some big time plays in the 4th quarter. There's too many people out there saying that they made the wrong pick. I think they made the right pick. I really like Caleb, and look, it's really early. Jaden Daniels is polarizing. Washington hasn't been good besides that one random RG3 year since the 80s. So. I understand it. I think it's really good, but I think it's better that we just got 2 young quarterbacks in the NFC that's doing this. A lot of the good quarterbacks are in the AFC, but I just want to say that
we got to talk. I have to. I got a few things to weigh off my chest, shoulder, every part of my body, and it's pure disappointment because you look at the offense, it's fine. Granted, we didn't score enough points to win that football game, but it's fine, right? Caleb Williams he's still developing, right? Swift is getting going. We're fine, okay? The defense is fine. Our coaching is not fine. I don't think it's hard. Do I like Cody Parkey more or do I like Matt Eberflus? And to answer the question, I don't know because it's an inability to coach. It's an inability to get a job done, and it's so disappointing because, like Johnny said, the hold. I don't want them to call a hold. I want them to make the quarterback throw a 60-yard bomb to beat us. Okay? We're going to rush 3, fine. We're going to have a spy, checks out. That makes sense, right? I mean, I've never coached a day of football in my life, but I'm like, yeah, let's have a spy on Jaden Daniels. And then if I'm Matt Eberflus and I'm looking down to the end zone and I see one of our corners just jabbering away to the fans, and I look down, I'm like, oh, I have a few timeouts left. I'm saying, oh, can I get one, please? Thank you. All right, Stevenson, knock it off. Come on. We got to lock in for one more play. All right, coach. You got it. And the Bears win that football game, right? And we are talking about the Bears going to Super Bowl on the next podcast. We absolutely are, right? But it's just so disappointing how Matt Eberflus just doesn't realize anything. It's like he doesn't know how to close out games. And here's the thing. I said it about teams that I root for. The Bears didn't deserve to win that game because their offense wasn't good enough against a very good Commanders team. We didn't deserve to win the game, but other teams find ways to win games when they don't deserve it. And you know what the Bears don't do is that, right? And so it's disappointing. We move on. We have Arizona. If we beat Arizona, my spirits go back high because then I think we play the Patriots. And so, it's fine. It is what it is. Life moves on. But you know what? Matt Eberflus better not be the coach of the Chicago Bears next year. I'm just so disappointed in an inability, inepticism. I don't even think it's a word, but I think whatever.
Nepotism is
ineptitism.
Ineptitism.
Yeah.
But ineptitude is what you're thinking. But
But a spy. I mean, it's a great idea to have a spy, huh? You guys
yeah,
like that?
no, it's bad. But yeah, interesting because God, it's really hard to believe the Bears have not played a divisional game yet, and
Yeah.
they got all of
That's
them
true.
coming up. And look, I
That
don't think the
hurts.
Vikings are 5-0 good. I know they're 5-2 now, but Vikings could still be a playoff team, obviously. But we will see.
I as frustrated as I am with the Bears, and obviously I said it's a waiting game for me. I need to see how they respond on Sunday, which is true. I'm still not going to sit here and say the Vikings are going to finish higher than the Bears. As of today, I personally think the Bears are going to finish higher than the Vikings, which is all it takes to make the playoffs. So,
Yeah, honestly,
obviously, we're gonna learn a lot Sunday, though. So,
yeah, the MC is bad. I will say the Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football in Arrowhead. I hope you guys are ready for that. But I just really quickly want to talk about the Bucs because I've been really harping on Todd Bowles, and you guys have heard it on this podcast that I don't think he's a head coach, but I think he's a really good coordinator. He hasn't been a good coordinator lately, and it is glaringly bad. I love Jason Light. I think Jason Light is one of the best general managers in football, but there's two glaring holes on the roster right now. Inside linebacker outside of Levante David, and now three because Jamel Dean's always hurt. You need a corner. They signed with the practice squad, and you need a receiver. And you see Deontay Johnson go for a 5th-round pick. That's almost a 6th-round pick, and it's hard. I know the Panthers are never going to trade him division, but I mean that just almost seems like a missed opportunity. But look, I told you guys before the podcast the last 2 games, no one's offense has been better than the Bucs, and they're 0-2 because no one's defense has been almost as worse as the Bucs. And it's just really disappointing to see. Antoine Winfield has frankly not lived up to the contract. I think he came back too early from his injury because he does not look 100%. Did he knock the ball out of Kyle Pitts' hands before he crossed the end zone? Yes. And I think the NFL officiating, you're a multi-billion-dollar company. You can't get an end zone shot. It is unbelievable. The people I follow on Twitter, one of the TV people for CBS Tampa, was on the end zone. And not only did he knock it short, he knocked it about almost an entire yard short. And that's just a massive gaffe on officiating. It changes the game. That's 2 times against the Falcons now that ineptitude on the officiating has cost the Bucs games. There's a face mask in the first game, and now that play with Kyle Pitts. With that being said, should Kyle Pitts have ever been that wide open? No, because you got Thunderberg, whoever his name is, outside corner, is an undrafted free agent. I see why he was undrafted. He is atrocious. He was the lowest graded player on the Bucs, I think, all season, minimum of like 10 snaps played. And Todd Bowles is the one putting him out there. He's the one doing the personnel stuff. So just Kirk Cousins has 8 touchdown passes against the Bucs, 5 against everyone else. That alone should get you fired. And look, I still think the Bucs have a top 10 talent roster. Mike Evans is going to be back eventually. And then after they play Kansas City, then they get the 49ers, then they get a bye. And then they play teams like the Giants, the Panthers twice, the Raiders, and just really bad teams for the last 6 or 7 weeks. So I know it looks rough now for the Bucs, but I still think, honestly, they should win 10 games. And 10 games get you in the playoffs. And frankly, it might get you the division because I don't think Atlanta's any good either. But as a Bucs fan, just really disappointed with Todd Bowles because, I mean, you got 2 games at home. You need to split those, especially the divisional game at home. And with 2 wide receivers gone, your offense puts up a really good effort. And I don't know what's going on with Baker. Tanner, me and you talked about this. He's trying to do too much hero ball right now. You just got to read the defense and take what it's given you at times. And sometimes it's not the worst thing to take a sack and kick a field goal. And look, I still love Baker. He's not going to watch this and not going to listen to me, but a lot of missed opportunities from Tampa.
He's going to be in trouble next week because the NFL has given him a notice, a warning that he can no longer have Zins on the sideline during the game.
Yeah.
Apparently
that shit wasn't helping him anyway. So maybe his desperation to get the game over to go get his
go down to those 3 millis so he can focus more. I mean,
yeah, I don't know what he's doing. He's freaking buzzed. Because one of his interceptions was so atrocious that I don't know if he saw the high safety. But, I don't even know what to say. Rough. We're all in shambles with our NFL teams. But NFL is still really fun. A lot of really fun games in that opening window on Red Zone. Shout out Scott Hansen. But with that being said, we'll end it here. It was fun to get back on, do another one of these. Our schedules are all a little bit crazy, especially mine. Tanner's is about to get even more crazy with the season started, and obviously James has a big boy job. So we're gonna try to at least do 1, 2 if possible. We could do another one this week, but we already did a prediction episode, so maybe we'll just have an episode of just I don't even know. Yeah, there we go. First of all, I could have a full episode talking about college football rankings And depending on how they come out on Tuesday night, Tanner, you don't have to raise your hand to speak.
Up. I know what he's gonna say.
College basketball.
Yes, I am so locked in. Tanner, I have a guy that I work with. His name is Leaf. He knows everything about college basketball. It is incredible. Me and him sit there and talk before work for like 2.5 hours just about the 2017 Florida Gator team and 2016 Purdue and all these teams. It is awesome. You would love him. I need to introduce you.
What he thinks about Vander Blue when he was at Marquette. What a stud he was.
You guys would really hit it off. But I just want to get that in there. We will be talking about college basketball soon because college basketball starts on Monday, and we are huge
criminal rankings. Whatever.
Yeah, Illinois. Get me out of here. And, we love college basketball on this podcast. But with that being said, we'll come back with another episode either end of this week or early next week. And if you guys watched all the way, leave a like, subscribe, send someone, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
Peace.